Good afternoon and welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Alli Joseph and my guest today is actress Julia Stiles, who you'll know from both her early teen movies like Save the Last Dance and 10 Things I Hate About You, and recently films like Silver Lining Playbook and the Jason Bourne movie series, and also Dexter, which I love. That's one of my favorites. So fun. Now she stars in the Sundance Now series Riviera as Georgina, the rich widow of a Greek billionaire with a mystery on her hands. The second season of Riviera premieres on Sundance Now, June 20th. Welcome, Julia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, thanks for coming. Riviera is so much fun. It's really like, and you told me you get to live in the south of France like half the year to film this thing. It's not a sham.
Yeah, it's not a bad gig. But it's great, and we're lucky that the title character of the show, which is the French Riviera, we get to actually film on location. So it looks expensive, hopefully.
It looks very expensive. So there's a lot of drama, and now, as I mentioned, it's in its second season, is renewed for a third. So congrats on that, and I guess you get to spend a lot more time. How's your French?
It's terrible. No,
Maybe it's getting better.
I'm working on it. We go back to do the third season at the end of the summer, which I'm very excited about. My French, I didn't speak any before the first season. I was fluent in Spanish, and I thought, I'll just get there and I'll pick it up because I fancied myself good at languages.
No.
And I picked up enough to communicate. I can order in a restaurant, I can get in a taxi, I can make small talk with people, but it's usually just present tense. And also I end up sticking my foot in my mouth a lot, because pronunciation in French is so specific and doesn't really come easily to me, that I remember marching up to, but I'm still really bold and I want to practice. I refuse to just speak English. So I remember marching up to the sound guy on our show, and I was like, the word for slip, that like a woman wears a slip under her dress, is nuisette, and the word for hazelnut is noisette. So I marched up to him and I said what translates to, Jean, I can't wear a microphone today because I'm wearing a hazelnut. I happened to be filming a scene where I was wearing a slip. But anyway, he looked at me quite confused.
But maybe he was appreciative. Because, what they say about the French, at least the Parisians, is that you have to try.
Yeah.
You have to really be showing an effort and clearly.
I do. I try, and then everybody speaks English back to me.
All right. Well, it's an effort. But anyway, Riviera has something for everyone, especially in today's sort of short attention span audience world. Beautiful people, gorgeous scenery, deceit, an unsolved murder, crime, high fashion. So what drew you to this role?
Part of me was like, oh, the south of France and fancy dresses, high heels, sign me up, glamour. But really, in all honesty, I thought the setting, the concept behind the show was behind every great fortune is a great crime. And I thought that was interesting. I thought that I was struck by this character because she's the only American in the show. She doesn't come from wealth. So she starts out as kind of the window into this world and the eyes of the audience who can't really relate to people that have yachts and helicopters and drivers and fancy mansions. But she's sort of passing in this world. But then what's intriguing to me is that she becomes corrupted by her surroundings. And yeah, there's a bit of the fantasy that we like with this glittery world, but it's still, I think the crime and the drama behind it is still sophisticated and hopefully not too soapy.
No, not too soapy. Just for folks who have not seen the first season of the show, and now we've gotten a little bit of the backdrop, and I like that you describe France as a character, as the main character. Could you describe, summarize the story?
Yeah. So the first season is basically my character is married to this billionaire, as you mentioned, and she comes back to the Riviera to find out that he's been murdered, or he's dead, and then she discovers it's a murder, and she's now hell-bent on finding out what happened. She uncovers that there was not only was he murdered, but there was fraud in their marriage, and the art collection that she had been helping him accumulate, he was selling it he was forging a lot of paintings and selling them on the black market. So there was deceit in her marriage. Her world basically falls apart. By the end of season 1, she's she's been dealing with so much grief. When she discovers who's responsible, she ends up, deliberately stabbing him and murdering somebody. So season 2, we pick up right where we left off, and Georgina is going to have to figure out how she's going to get away with murder. Not only, in terms of not getting caught, but in terms of her own conscience, because she goes back to this family, back to the house that they live in, and has to watch every family member slowly start to grieve for the loss of their stepson son or brother, and Georgina knows that she's the one that's responsible for it. So her conscience really eats away at her.
And there's some pathos there, right? So all of your character and a lot of the characters that we see all have demons and secrets, right? And that's what sort of keeps this moving, keeps it interesting. And they don't always make the best decisions, right? And so there's a humanity, though, to Georgina, and I think that keeps fans rooting for her in a way. And so, what parts of Georgina do you connect to?
She's doing the best that she can. I mean,
I know that too.
Yeah, she is an otherwise good person who does something in sort of does something that she's not proud of, but now is like trying to figure out what she's going to do about it. And what do I relate to about with her? Well, I mean, for me, it's more. Is she compelling? Is she interesting? And oddly enough, I often go ask myself when we're in the middle of a scene, like, why does this girl stay here? Why does she stay in the Riviera? And obviously, we wouldn't really have a TV show without that, or it would not include her. But because Julia, I would get on a plane back to New York and get out of this family. But she's what appeals to me about her is that she's kind of reckless in her determination to keep things together and keep her life in order the way that she remembers it.
Absolutely. Now, when I think back to Kat in 10 Things I Hate About You and Sarah in Save the Last Dance, these are characters that you played almost 20 years ago? I think it's 20 years ago. And they were feisty, though, like Georgina, and she has a lot of those characteristics. So does playing her feel at all like a homecoming to some of your past work and those strengths?
I mean, I think the writers of Riviera respond to that strength, and so they enjoyed writing scenes for me and situations for me where that could be showcased. But it's nice to hear you say that. Like I don't know how much of that was intentional, but I'm glad that would be the way that you could characterize my work.
Absolutely, and I think you as an actor probably choose roles based on things that you're drawn to and your abilities, and also maybe something in yourself that you can pull out and emphasize, right?
I mean, the one thing that is challenging about Riviera is that we've set up a world is showing Georgina's vulnerability and her inner emotional world, because she's not a sociopath. And she's not a stone cold, emotionless woman. But the thing is, she has no friends in this world. She doesn't trust anybody. We've set up a show where the love of her life has been killed, so she's grieving intensely, but she has to keep up this public face. So for us, the challenge was, how do we get inside of her heart and her inner world?
So speaking to her strengths and how perhaps uncommon it is to have a lead female, role in a drama series, not so common. So was it hard to find a role like this?
I am so pleased, and it wasn't necessarily predicted, that this show could so easily be about the male businessmen and moguls in Monaco and in the French Riviera, and it's actually become really largely about the women who are driving this. There's my character, and then there's Lena Olin plays the ex-wife of my late husband, and now this season Juliette Stevenson, a wonderful British actress, joins us, and she plays another wealthy woman in this world that has some secrets in her past, and they're all powerhouses, which doesn't have. I mean, a show about wealthy people in South of France doesn't have to be that.
No, and it was great to see Lena Olin again. I saw her in the credits, and I thought, oh,
she's so good.
So amazing, right?
She's really talented.
So, Let's bring it back to our location. I just saw a fly flying around, and that established our sense of place. We are in New York.
Yeah.
And it's just about summer. So as long as you don't trip on any rats in the streets, I feel like you're good. But you and I are both New York City born and raised kids, and I learned to walk fast and never look strangers in the eye, right? You probably learned that as well. And also not to take any shit, right? So, and here we come back to your characters. So what about your upbringing in this great, well, I would say formerly gritty city? Still got rats and flies, but less crime, thanks to Giuliani. What about your upbringing here have you used in your acting career?
I think with Riviera particularly, maybe not even intentionally, that directness has come out. So that Georgina, whether it's because of what the writers have written or it's because of what I bring to the part, Georgina has this like directness that the other characters don't have. You know, there's the buttoned up. You know how sometimes people speak in this sort of way that you have to read between the lines? That's the world that she's in, and Georgina's the one who just like cuts to the chase.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot to come from New York City, including the New York Mets, I understand. Are you still a Mets fan?
I am definitely a baseball fan, and especially the New York Mets, but I spend so much time not in the United States that, and no,
now it's
baseball, they don't care about baseball there, so it's hard for me to keep up so much, but.
You shifted to European sports, soccer?
I mean, I like soccer. I used to play soccer. We were filming in Nice when the World Cup happened, and we have a British and French crew. So when England and France were playing each other, there literally were mobs in the street. I did not go out. I did not leave the house.
Wow. Was it hard to get them to focus on work?
Well, I was really hoping that England and France would like play in I think it was the final, but England didn't make it that far, and because I just wanted to see what would happen on set. But
yes, rivalries, right? Okay, so in your career, aside the films and the earlier TV work, I understand Shakespeare was a big influence for you, and something early on that you took on, and everything from inspirations of his modern day adaptations and early work. So and Riviera, I'm thinking of it, has a lot of these sort of Shakespearean elements, right? These, you know, the deceit, the murder, love, you know, all these family dramas. So did you draw on any of that training for this?
It is very funny that you say that, because I literally turned to the rest of the cast after the table read of episode 6, and I was like, if Shakespeare and the Greeks had a love child, it would be season 2 of Riviera. And I meant that in a good way, because the drama is so heightened, and the world is heightened, and it's this tangled web of deceit and lies, and that affects all these characters. But I think you're along for the ride, you know, in the way that was so epic, and it only really worked with Shakespeare and Greek tragedies.
And how did people respond?
How did the rest of the cast respond?
When you said that, did they agree with you?
The writers were flattered. The writers liked it. The writers were like, great, that's what we were going for.
Okay. So, as I mentioned in our intro, you know, we've seen you work prolifically for a long time, which is great. And a lot of folks remember you probably as a child actress, and you're a mom now to a little boy. And so I have to ask the parenthood question, being a parent myself, and you know, seeing all these evolutions of and iterations of yourself, and like all the things that we project coming from our own families. How has parenthood changed you?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's just so wonderful. It's a delight. Even in the most frustrating, sleep-deprived moments, it's an absolute joy. Like, he's the light of my life. I learn something new every day. I'm walking through life almost with new eyes, and my priorities have shifted, so I find that, you know, when I come home from a day at work, I'm not obsessing over every little line that I said or what I looked like. You know, it's just a shift, and it's been fantastic. I'm really happy.
What has he taught you? Because I know for myself, I've had to really work on my patience and developing more of that in these challenging sleepless moments. Which I hate to tell you, but my kids are almost 8 and 11 and a half, and I'm still not getting
Oh, really?
Like one of mine still wakes up with nightmares, so you're in for the long haul, right? But patience. What have you learned from him? Anything?
So much, but
well, I imagine it must be interesting to have him. Is he on set? So when you're in France, where is he? Like when you're filming the show?
He comes with me. We haven't spent a night apart. I'm kind of sensitive to like when he's gonna start missing mommy and getting worried that mommy's going away to work. So, which gets to be more as they get older. So, I would often just have him come to set like at lunchtime so that I could fully focus on him, and also I wasn't constantly being pulled away. I've learned how to laugh a lot more with him. He's really funny and makes me look at the world in a funny way. It's like it brings out all this silly playfulness that I think maybe was missing for a second.
Yeah, but definitely as we get grown, things seem to get more serious.
Yeah.
And sometimes necessarily, and then a lot of times just kids are funny.
Yeah.
My daughter's funny too. They make me laugh all the time. Just the way that they look at things.
Yeah, totally.
Is sometimes
because everything's
very fresh.
new, and the enthusiasm and excitement for everything that's new in the world comes back, and I think that's really refreshing.
It is refreshing. So he's just little, but given your upcoming in Hollywood and living through Me Too and Time's Up, what will you teach your son about being a good man?
That is also a really interesting question, and I talk about this and think about it all the time because I'm raising a white boy, but I can already feel that he has a really good kind, at his core, he's really good and kind. But it's interesting because I talk about this with my husband, like right now we're dealing with how to let him be aggressive in certain ways because he's going to have the boy thing, dare I say, where he wants to wrestle or fight or be roughhouse, and yet how do you keep that directed in a positive way and in a way so I don't know, it's a challenge, but I think largely it's by example, and my husband is wonderful. We were at the park a while ago, and our son was playing with a fire truck, and this woman said, are you going to be a fireman when you grow up? Are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be, what are you going to be? In a very pressured kind of way. And my husband said to him, not to her, he said, I just want you to be kind, which I thought was a really good lesson, and so I think I have a good partner to help me in
Absolutely.
all that. Yeah.
That's my main
I chose
thing.
wisely.
Good for you. That's my main thing, that they, be good people and treat people well.
Yeah.
We have a question from Thomas, who writes, do you specifically seek out strong characters, or do you sense others see you that way, and so that is what you are offered? Is it a vicious circle, I guess he's asking?
I do think, I'm not sure, but I think that it's both, honestly. I mean, I know that the producers and writers of Riviera had mentioned that one of the reasons that they thought of me for this part was for what you said, strength that I have shown. But I think I also, when I look at certain roles, I don't mind playing characters that show vulnerability and show weaknesses and don't always make the right decisions. But I tend to choose the stronger choice. Also because a lot of times we're playing pretend in this world where we get to act out the things that we don't really get to do in real life. So you can have the monologue, the tirade where you got to stick up for yourself and be really forceful and articulate and make the demands that you wanted that you maybe don't get to do in real life, or you wish you could. When you had that thing where if only you had thought quick enough, you would have told the person off.
I have some French.
Oh, okay.
L'esprit d'escalier. Do you know what that is? Do you know that this is a good expression for you in France?
Thank you.
My father, who does not speak French but is is extremely well read, described this, and only the French can do this. Sorry, other language people, but only the French can. It means exactly what you just said. It encapsulated the meaning of it. It's the spirit of the stairs, and what it means is, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Like what you would have said if only you had thought of the great retort in the moment.
I love that.
L'esprit d'escalier.
Spirit of the staircase. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I have some French. Oh my God, it's still in there somewhere.
That's beautiful. I'm definitely going to use that.
Use it. I wonder how much of an idiom that is. I don't know how many modern French people use that, but you can look it up.
I'm going to test it out when we go back to season 3. But yes, it's when you had that retort that you wish that you could have said. We get to script it and actually say it. So that may be what I gravitate towards.
All right. Thomas, you got it? All good? Okay. So now something for a little different. You just wrapped, as I understand, filming with Cardi B and J-Lo on a film that will come out, I imagine, another year or so, called Hustlers.
I think it'll come out sooner than that. I think it's coming out in September. But we did just finish it. I'm so excited. It's a fascinating story, really cool cast. But it's a true story based on a New York Magazine article about these strippers at Scores here in New York who, when they stopped bringing in as much money, they came up with this hustle to drug the men that would come in there and just run up huge credit card tabs. And they ended up making millions and eventually getting caught. Luckily, nobody, died in the process, but I just think it's fascinating. And I told the director, I was like, I don't care. I will sweep the floors. I will make coffee for everybody. I just want to be a part of this movie. I do not play a stripper. I play the journalist who covered the story and interviews all these women and hopefully makes the audience understand kind of why they did what they did.
Yeah, well, I always found the practice of exotic dancing like a big sociology experiment for the women who do it, and it's an income. They don't call themselves strippers. I think they call themselves adult dancers. But and I remember when that story came out.
Yeah.
And how smart that was of them. Illegal, but very smart.
I mean, it's dangerous, but they're kind of entrepreneurs, or at least it was a hustle, and my character says to one of them in the interview, I know I'm supposed to feel bad for these guys, but I honestly don't. And it's because, we see what the treatment was on the other side.
Mm-hmm. And you've already
it's a business. It's a business transaction. And so they were just adding a little danger into it.
Little zhuzh. So you, as you mentioned, you're not an exotic dancer in this, but did you, I assume, to just get a sense of place, you don't go to the New York Magazine offices, you go to Scores or Tens or whatever the clubs are now. That's what they were when I was growing up.
I am such a nerd. I got to meet and have lunch with at her home, Jessica Pressler, the journalist that I play, and so I got to ask her a million questions. And but I was too timid or nerdy to actually go to the strip club. But it didn't. I don't think that really mattered in terms of what I had to do for the movie. For me, it was more about, I guess, how to, do I take notes? Do I use a tape recorder? Mm-hmm. What kind of questions do I ask? How do I get these women to open up and confide in me and not feel judged? And
this journalism business is complicated.
It's difficult.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Totally.
On that note, we have to wrap up, but it's been such a pleasure having Julia Stiles here from the second season of Sundance Now's Riviera, which is going to premiere June 20th, correct?
Yep.
And we look forward to I'm ready to see Hustlers, too, when it comes out.
It's going to be good.
Did you shoot in New York and everywhere?
We shot in New York, yeah.
All right, then I'm going to look for locations, being a New Yorker. And good luck with the third season of Riviera in the future and that little boy of yours.
Thank you so much.
Sweet boy. Have a great day.